Welcome to the North End YouTube channel. This is the Sunday Roast. It's just Connie and I. Connie, let's give it a go.
This is the North End. This is the North End.
Sorry, brother, I interrupted you with the intro there.
No,
You're about to answer, and I'm like, boom.
I was gonna say, man, just us, the OG crew minus Paul. Let's do it.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Yeah, just a couple different positions probably from the last show we did in regards to results. I had a pretty rough day. I'm not gonna lie. I watched the first half fully, and then the second half, like I said, I had to go to work, so I wasn't able to really fully focus on the game.
Have you watched it yet? Have you watched the second half yet?
I watched it. I had it on while I was working, right? So it was kind of like in the background, and I had my earphones in, so I was listening to it.
Okay, I watched that game pretty attentively, and I think we should probably spend. It's the game of the weekend. It's the North London Derby. You're a Spurs
I think we'll
fan.
save it. We'll save it for the end. Yeah?
Save it for the end. I mean, and I think it's the game that probably should be discussed the most.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll go through these pretty quick, right? Like, you know, a lot of the expected results.
We're not going to spend 20 minutes on the Ipswich game.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh my God, no goals! Right,
yeah.
So let's kick it off. Let's get into because this is we'll start it off bookend with like I just talked about Manchester United Southampton. 0. It's at Southampton 0-3. Man United, arguably the first half an hour, I'd say, struggled a little bit with Southampton, but Southampton 100%. Fell off completely, and it was a tale of two different teams. I thought like Southampton just seemed like they gave up, and Man United seemed like they figured something out. So,
for being transparent, for being very transparent and clear, and this is a thing, like, and you know what it's like, Brian. Like, you're a big Spurs fan, and you're like me. We check the online stuff. We're very engaged. We have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, we struggle. We suffer.
Yeah, and everyone's got these different opinions. The truth of that game was the penalty, which was a clear penalty. Great work by the kid, and I forget his name. The penalty save was like the sliding doors moments, right? Because up until that point, you'd be like, United were poor, and like Southampton are in this, they're pressing, and you're like, here we go again with United just being crap. The penalty saves, and it's just a different game.
Yeah,
and United get the goal with De Ligt, which is great, and Rashford.
Good for De Ligt, right? Because he's kind of come in with a little bit of controversy, or not controversy, but a little bit of skepticism about whether he's going to be able to do the job, right?
Tough international break. And I mean, listen, here's the thing. Like, you know me, I'm very critical United. 3 goals, which we struggle to score, 3 points, you got to be happy. Did I love the performance? I got to be honest with you. I didn't. I thought it was controlling, but it was one of those two. Like do you remember like the Wolves game for you? Like Wolves were terrible. I mean, Everton, excuse me. Southampton were really, really bad after the penalty. So like,
the second half, which is essentially what I watched. I watched a bit of the highlights quickly the first half to catch up what had happened, and then popped it on for the second and sat down. And it was just like, it was comfortable for me.
Exactly. So it was nice to see us win. It was nice to see Ugarte come on, and I mean, listen, I do think the team is better, but I do think with United right now, when they play better opposition, and we saw it against Liverpool, that's where you're going to figure out where they are. And I don't even mean like the top teams, but like when they play that top 6, top 8, like when they
the West Hams and the
Spurs
Newcastle Spurs were
that'll be a wake up call to see where they're at, because like
it's coming up, buddy. We're playing you guys.
I know. So very I don't want to be doom and gloom. Very happy. I mean, early game on the Saturday. Happy with the 3 points. Definite room for improvement.
Just through the weekend with a little bit of
got me through the weekend for a change. I was very happy.
I like playing on Saturday, like maybe not early, but just Saturday, because at least I know if I'm going to be miserable or not.
Oh, I know.
All right. So, if anything else you want to add before we move on?
I think that's it. You got anything on that one?
I think the same thing. I think United looked good. If I was going to compare it to sort of what Spurs looked like against Everton, I feel like United looked the same against Southampton. Two teams that are pretty struggling. They're going to end up somewhere at the bottom of the table. We look far better than we probably are, and then when you play a team that's actually good, you see what you're lacking, which we'll get to today.
We'll get to, because you and I might have different opinions on this one.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be interesting to hear yours, because you always have a pretty reasonable position that isn't based in what I generally deal with, with my own fan base and friends.
Yeah, I've seen some of yours today. I've seen some of your close friends going off today, and then like, you know what? And again, we'll wait to it. Now we're like,
we'll get there. It's all about the love for the club. That's what it comes down to. But
I don't think it was all that bad. But again, let's save it till we
we'll get to it. So let's do the quick ones. Man City, Brentford 2-1. Man City. Obviously, Brentford scored first minute, 22 seconds in. I think. wonderful goal that set the game up a little bit for like, well, we've got something, and then 10 minutes later, Erling Haaland happened again.
Well, I watched this game. Like,
yeah, I watched some of it. It was kind of in the background a little bit.
I kind of the second half I went over to, but I saw all of the first half, and I will tell you, in the first 10 minutes of the game, Brentford should have scored 2 or 3 goals, and I'm not even kidding. They were on him. They were on him. Yeah. They dominated them. And my main takeaway, and I've been hammering on in our group chat, is Haaland gets too, like, most strikers aren't scoring those goals. Like, he turns, he gets that first one on a tough angle.
So quick.
Big, and he's quick. And the second one, he just does it again. The Premier League's a joke. Bullies defenders, goes in, and just clinical. And I keep hammering on here. And I have to ask you, because I'm dying to have this conversation with someone. So we're having it now.
Let's do it. Let's have it.
We've seen City they just dominate, especially second half of the season.
Yeah.
For me, it's starting to feel, and this isn't a fair comment, but like, I don't want to say they're a one-man team, but I'm starting to feel like they are heavily reliant. Like, Alvarez is gone. Mahrez used to chip in with some goals. Some other players, Grealish isn't really scoring. Doku's not a goal scorer. Foden will pop up with the odd one. De Bruyne
here and there, but yeah, I agree with you, man. I was saying that to somebody else who was, obviously texting back and forth. I hope Man City got relegated kind of stuff, because that would save everybody. But like, it really comes down to it. If he gets injured, if Haaland gets injured, what is the fix? Now we know it's Pep, right? Pep's going to have ideas. He's going to play with a false nine, and he's going to still be able to get wins, but it becomes a contest again. But the thing about Haaland is he didn't have anything in the summer, so he had the whole summer to get himself fit instead of firing. He looks better than he's looked yet, and that's scary, because how good he was the first season with 40+ goals. So I think we're in trouble.
He's the most valuable player. Do you think he is technically the most? Like, if you were building a team and you got to choose from him, like an Mbappe and a couple of others, I think I would maybe take Haaland over everyone right now.
I think I might. I probably still consider Kane, but I think that's because obviously there's a bit of bias there. I admit that, but I also, you have to recognize the level of all the things they do. Kane as a footballer is a better footballer. He's a better passer.
For sure.
The ball. But the thing, like,
Haaland's a better goal scorer. Haaland, we have to admit,
it's really close, but just better. I would say just better. Kane's already got like 5, I think, in the Bundesliga.
He's killing it.
He's absolutely smashing it up. He's gonna.
I don't compare those two to eat, although he is on City, but like the Bundesliga is doing what he's doing in the Premier League.
But he's also doing it at City. So I mean,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
So I wonder. Better players make it easier.
So this is a thing, and I don't think anyone's talking about it yet. And I'm serious. I think you and I might be the first ones, whether it's online or whatever. It's going to be interesting to see how reliant they are on his goals this year, or if others are going to chip in, and who is going to chip in.
Because again, I was saying to this guy, I'm like, how many goals do they have so far this season?
He has 11. He's got 9.
He's got 9 goals in 4
games.
They've
got 11, and he's got 9 of them.
Crazy,
dude. So like, again, and I you know what? This is the worst thing about fandom. You never ever, like, obviously I'm a United fan. I would never want to see Mo Salah get. I don't want to see anyone ever get injured.
Yeah, it's an awful thought, but we all have it, because what are we going to do to enjoy the freaking title race again?
It's not cool. But if he did get a bad injury, and listen, we never wish that on him. It would be very interesting to see
how do they adjust
what that team is, because they never used to be. We always used to comment about De Bruyne would get injured, Aguero, they would get injury problems. It wouldn't matter. I do think this one would matter. They sold Alvarez, and Alvarez is a good footballer, a goal scorer too. When they sold him to Atletico, I was like, who's going to chip in with the goals, right? So it's interesting.
It is. I'm curious how it's going to pan out. I agree with you. I think there's been a ton of reliance on him. I think any team would, because he's clinical. It's like absurd. So if your build a play is good enough to make sure he gets the ball at the end of it in the final third, you're gonna win every game you play. That's, I mean, again, that's we'll get to Spurs, but that's where we're struggling massively.
No, there's more to be said about Spurs. I know. But we'll get to the whole thing about this game, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. So this was a shock of the weekend. I think. I don't think the Spurs losing to Arsenal was a shock, because it's the 4th time we've lost them in a row at home. So there's no shock there. But Liverpool at home losing to Nottingham Forest. 1-0 Forest to Liverpool.
Couldn't
I mean, this is
crazy.
Believe it. This was another game I didn't watch the entire game. I missed the first like 20, 30 minutes, and then I watched the rest of it. But Liverpool like not like a skeleton of themselves from the first 3 games, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think the only comment I would so their midfield and their defense were solid. They were good. Attacking,
it was the front 3, wasn't it?
They were
wasteful.
horrendous. And everyone knows I'm a huge Mo Salah fan. Like, despite being in it, he was poor. And we talk. It's funny how you bring up this game after the City game, because I had some comments with some Liverpool mates of mine. My brother's a Liverpool guy. I felt the beginning of the season that Liverpool were leaning heavily on Salah, kind of like they have for a number of years now. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. If he falls off, they fall off, kind of thing.
Your talisman needs to be your talisman for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
He's your go-to guy. But it's probably one of the worst games I've seen Salah have for a while. And really, just offensively, they were poor. And I think we were talking in our group chat. I'm like, I've seen them go down 1-0 in like the 70th minute. They always get another, at least a drawing goal, and it's usually they come back and score 2 or 3.
I called it. I said I think it was about the 65th minute. I said this is going to end 1-0 Forest, and I could see by the patterns of play that Forest were the ones, despite Liverpool having more of the ball, and of course I'm used to watching that, having a ton of the ball but not getting anything done with it. They look toothless up front, and then whenever Forest got the ball going the other way, you're like, I can see something here.
Yeah, they were playing with courage, weren't they? Like,
their counterattack was brilliant against Liverpool.
They'll hold on for a point. They'll get 10 men behind the ball. And again, it's not because it's Liverpool. I really applaud the guts that Forest had and the impetus.
I agree. Yeah, I was impressed by it.
They could have got a second, but I think the story of that game will be, and dude, that's at Anfield. And
I know, that's what I said.
It's like this is Anfield, man.
Yeah, and again, that's from a slot perspective. He started really well, 3 wins, really good wins, no shots or no goals scored. So this is the first, not a clean sheet, and also just performance-wise, really poor. I was surprised.
We gotta say though, and I think it's important, right? Like, everyone's entitled to a bad day at the office, right?
For sure.
All of our
I think this is the thing that people, and I'm sure you would agree, and I think most people agree, is after an international break, you don't know what you're going to get from your side. If the player is a prominent part of that national side, which Salah is, there's a chance that he was, didn't have a ton of rest. I know that there's some players in Spurs side that had, they were feeling ill going into the game today, which I found out afterwards, and I was like,
Romero,
Romero, not feeling
it was shocking to me, but like, hey man, like that, this is the Premier League. Teams are good now, and it was actually nice to see, like, like some of these players that you have at a bigger club, and they ended up like, you see a Callum Hudson-Odoi, you're like, I guess he couldn't cut it at Chelsea. It's nice to see them still finding a team and playing well. It was a great goal. Like, him and Elanga look good, but Liverpool, it might just be, like you said, might be international break, might just be things weren't clicking. It was just an off day, right? But
I think you could, for now, you could say that and move on. And if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be like, and I'm sure Azaz will say something about it. But I got the feeling that it was like, okay, we were due this a little bit, and it's probably the time it's going to happen is after an international break. And Slot hasn't dealt with that. Is that players come back? It's the first time he's trying to manage his squad that way. And
Azaz is getting reactionary, and I know.
I love it though. I love it.
When he's not on here, I'm pretty sure he listens to them afterwards, or even.
I think he'll get into it. Azaz,
he gets super reactionary online. I think Azaz is a younger guy. You and I are obviously a little bit older,
I think that's a massive part of it is age.
Like, we're not winning the league. This, and this.
I'm too tired to think about it.
Azaz, man, chill out. We're 4 games in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get to the next game. Fulham won, West Ham won. I watched this game. This was the game I thought was going to be the most entertaining, and it was very, very good watch on Saturday. And both teams kind of like Fulham in the first half, very comfortable, really aggressive, made West Ham kind of look sloppy. West Ham couldn't get the ball to their end and put passes together. Fulham looked really strong. And then the second half is sort of the flip, the tale of two halves business. But a good game of football. It was entertaining. They're both playing, a little bit more open, more interesting football with the coaches they got. What was your thought on this? Did you get a chance to check the highlights?
I tell you, man. Yeah, I saw it, and I think you nailed it well. I think Fulham are playing a lot better football this season, and I think they're going to be.
What's the kid's name from Arsenal? That he's still not fully fit, but
I know you're talking.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, through the academy. BX Gunner, tell us who you were talking about because I'm having a brain.
Oh man, that's going to piss me off.
But yeah, anyways, he's done really well. He scored a goal, but he's kind of
Emil Smith-Rowe.
Yes, Emil Smith-Rowe.
He looks great. Like he looks.
He does.
Right now.
He looks like he's gone to a club where it's the level suits him, but also the pressure's been put on him to perform and be that guy, and he seems to be taking it well. Like
nobody ever talked about it though, right? And this is what I'm getting said. This is why I like that we have this show, because I think we talk about topics that people don't really cover. Like we go peel off the onion layers. Emil Smith-Rowe is an out-and-out 10. I would almost liken him to like a James Madison in a sense. And with the way Arsenal play, and with
he's a little deeper, but no, I actually think
he's more advanced actually. When with Odegaard and that Arsenal team, he's never going to get like a proper sniff, right?
Yeah,
and he's a talented player. I think it's been a great signing. We should talk about what a pass by Jared Bowen for the equalizer, though. Like,
God, unreal, man. Yeah, like very.
We've got some really nice goals that we're going to get to as well today, but I thought that was pretty.
Yeah, really very nice. I thought, again, an excellent game. Jimenez getting on the score sheet for the first time in a long time.
Nice to see.
Nice to see. And the Smith-Rowe pass to him, and that was very nice as well.
Some really nice goals.
Yeah, some good build-up. He got to the touchline and then crossed it back in, and it was just a really quick 1-2, really good stuff. Entertaining football. So let's get to the next one. We got Crystal Palace, Leicester City, another draw, 2-2. This was a Leicester City team that looked like they were going to go on to get some points here, and Palace come back. Was it the other way around?
No, I think no.
Yeah, no. Palace scored a 93rd minute penalty
equalizer. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Leicester were up 2-1, looking like they were going to get somewhere, and Palace in the last bit of the game got the job done and came back. But again, this was a highlight one for me, so I didn't really get a good sense.
I'm the same, but I will make this comment though. I do think that it's cool that it's 2024 and Jamie Vardy still scoring Premier League goals.
Yeah, early goal too for him, right? Crazy.
Cool, man. Like the fact that he's still around kicking after his story.
39 years old and still doing it.
Insane.
I mean, that's
at 39 is nuts. But yeah. I mean, for those two, like, you flip a coin. It was kind of like Fulham, West Ham. I would say, like, going into the season, I'd be like, oh, maybe edge that to West Ham. But like, man, it's Premier League. Everyone can show up and put in a performance.
For sure. I thought with Palace, the way they finished last season, that they'd be a bit stronger this season. Beginning of the season, I feel like they don't look organized like they did, and they don't look like they know the football they want to play. It feels a little bit sloppier than it did at the end of last season. So I'm a bit surprised there, because the coach had done a really good job with sort of creating a new system.
You want to talk about Haaland and you want to talk about Salah? Like, I think there was a lot of games last year where Michael Olise really just said, "I'm going to take the game by the scruff of my neck." And
Olise, I think they miss him big time for sure.
Yeah,
interestingly, nobody came in for him over the summer with the
You hear the comment from the director of football? He's like,
"Yeah, I saw that.
Stunned that no one got."
I mean, 65 million bio clause. That's a lot of money for any club, especially with FFP business or whatever.
People are going away from those now too, and I don't disagree with like these big money signings. I think we're going to slowly start to see less.
I think it's going to become much more of a squad game and much more of a scenario where system and squad matter more than
scouting
specific players. I mean, it's already there. Like arguably we're there. We still have a little bit of the cusp of the end of that kind of 2000 aughts football, where it was like the fancy boys out there with their having a laugh. It just
100 million for Caicedo and other
those like I think the Neymar one was kind of the one that kind of over the edge, where people were like 120 or 200 million. What is happening in the world?
It's nuts.
It's absurd. So another game we really don't need to talk about. Brighton Hove, Ipswich 0-0. I didn't
snoozer of the weekend. Should we just call snooze of the weekend?
Yeah, snooze of the weekend.
One call out, I would say.
Again, I didn't watch it, but I didn't. It looks. I want to talk about yellow cards. We'll get to that to the end of the.
Oh no! Let's wait till Chelsea to get to that.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Chelsea. Spurs as well. The Spurs had the most yellow cards in the first half in Premier League history.
Let's just talk about it now. It was the record yellow cards ever in the Premier League this weekend.
It's absurd.
What is
going on? I understand. This is what happens at the beginning of the season when they change a rule and the players in the teams or the players just aren't used to the new rule. The new rule is obviously it's more aggressive rule about kicking the ball away and time wasting. I like that that's the case. I want to see players learn it faster because like again, yellow card. And
that's how they do learn though. I think that's how you do learn.
It should be, but like last season they said that they were going to do something similar, and the referees slowly stopped giving yellow cards as much. They dwindled it down towards the end of the season. It just became like not a thing. I'm like, and they were supposed to give yellow cards when everybody did this, and whether the coach did that or a player was like, give me yellow. That was supposed to be a yellow card for the guy who does it. I saw that in like 4 games this week.
I know.
No yellow card.
We just want consistency. It's just like VAR.
Exactly. Right? It's absurd.
You know what? The next one I want to see next season, because I do like this rule. Like back in the day, and you would remember this because we're old enough to remember. the goalie would get 6 seconds with the ball. 6 seconds from the time they have possession of it to move it.
Pick it up, gotta get
When
rid of it.
have you ever
I
once
played
seen a
goalie in that scenario.
when have you ever once seen a goalie take 6 seconds or less to get rid of the ball?
Yeah, and it was also
They
minimum
don't.
amount of steps as well. I think you could
Yeah,
only
I don't know if it
walk
was
6
steps, but
I
I
think
know it
that
was
was
6
initially. I think they
seconds.
got rid of that after a while in the 90s, but I
Like,
remember back in the day, like, you were only allowed to take so many steps.
they take 20 seconds now. It's
Oh, it's
like, you wanna
ridiculous.
speed it up, speed that up. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of ways
yeah,
to do it. Just be again, like you said, be consistent about it.
100%.
All right, let's get on to the next one. We got Villa 3-2 over Everton.
Oh,
Everton
man.
again. This is the second time in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, the last time against Bournemouth, where they were 2-0 up, had a pretty
Jesus.
comfortable lead, and then just got dominated by the opposing team and shit the bed.
We need to call out JP. What about JP in
Yeah,
rage?
JP, you weak ass motherfucker. Sorry,
that is not a strong fan. For all you Villa fans who watch our channel, have a word with your boy JP.
Yeah, anybody who like
he gave
who
up.
walks away from a match that he's watching because a couple of goals went in. And then missed a great comeback, a really good comeback from Villa. Obviously, Ollie
Watkins with 2,
getting 2.
And then
the goal. Let's just talk about the goal from what's his name, Duran, and the 76th minute. Wow. I mean, wow, that's a rocket with the left. Was it on his left foot? He just
his left foot. He must be. There's no way he's sitting that with his wrong foot.
Those goals very often these days,
dude. That's an early candidate for goal of the season, man. That was crazy.
He just hits it, and he's on the pitch for like what 3-4 minutes or something like that. He's just come off 8 goals in since he's come off the bench. Yeah, in seven of those are off. 8 goals in the games he's played. 7 of them from the bench. So you get like a really good stat there from your bench, right? Like you got a player he's in the times he's come on, he's scoring goals like that. I'm jealous.
I got to see for Villa too, like Ollie Watkins, really slow start to the season. We talk about goal scorers already on this show. For your guy to get 2 goals, especially when you're down 2-0.
Got to get going. Once you get going, that's the thing. That's what I was hoping.
Great result for Villa.
For Solanke today was to get freaking goal, because it's desperate for it. And I'm not loving the situation. We got AFC Bournemouth versus Chelsea. Now we were again yellow card madness going on here.
Oh man,
Bournemouth lose. I would say arguably kind of unfortunate. I think Bournemouth, like in many parts of this game, were the better team. I thought Chelsea were shit the first half. I don't know if I've ever seen a worse performance of playing out the back in the Premier League ever in history for that first 45 minutes. I was like, what
those changes, of him taking on Disasi for, is it Tosin? It was
completely changed the game, yeah.
And I have to say, and it was painful to watch, Sancho came on, and I never thought I'd say this in my life in a Premier League game, because I thought the Prem was too much for him. It's the best I've ever seen him play in the Premier League. It's like, who are you? I didn't see one version of this at United. He just took over the game and dominated. And then Nkunku came on. And you know what? Like, we talk about Chelsea a lot. And I agree with Chelsea fans. There's over 40 players. They've got a 20, 25-man squad.
There's players on the outside who got kind of burned because of the way the club's running shit. It's terrible. Yeah. But he's not working with 40 players. He's working with the 25 he picked.
Yes, you know what every
manager does at every club.
You got a lot of attacking options there, and that's a nice problem to have for a manager. But when Nkunku came on and he made those substitutions, like, I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. But like, I don't think he can be having Jackson start up front and make a difference.
It's just so wasteful, right? He gets all these chances. You just sort of expect something. His first touch isn't great, and he kind of he just doesn't look like his thinking in football IQ isn't super high. 14 yellow cards in this game.
Crazy.
14. I mean, again, it's just
entertaining. I got to tell you,
it's entertaining, but I'm just waiting, and I'm surprised how many red cards were this weekend? Any?
There was one. There was one in the United game. I know that.
So out of I would love to look at how many yellow cards for the entire weekend. Maybe we'll do this
most ever.
Yeah, it is right,
or something like that.
Yeah, and most ever
yellow cards history
in not a single red.
Most in one game.
Or one red. Was there a red today?
No, there was a red. The only red I can remember is the United game late on. That's the only one I can remember.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, still, that's a nut stat, right? One red card and 60 plus yellows.
I do think I want to go back to Chelsea though. I do think Chelsea are a lot better than they were last year already.
I disagree. Okay, so
I don't get all this hate. Like
no, it's not hate. It's not hate. I think you have to be reasonable about what you're looking at. It's nothing to do with hate. And I do have hate for Chelsea, but let's put that aside for a second. If you look at the football that they're playing, Poch had them humming really good
for a little bit.
Yeah. For the last 5 or 6 games, they went from like, I think they were 13, 14 points behind Spurs, finishing 1 or 2 points behind. They won
at the end.
most. Yeah, then at the end of the season, that's what I'm saying. And going into the season with Maresca, I feel like he's trying to dilly-dally a little too much. You saw what's his name with the shaggy hair?
Cucurella?
Yeah, Cucurella, thank you. You saw him playing like a high, like he was kind of doing a high inside.
He looks great.
It didn't work. It worked because he assisted a goal, right? But it didn't work like for the game. It looked really weird.
I think
he's tinkering a little bit, isn't he?
He's been given like the players that like João Felix. I do think is a great player. Sancho could be. He's got so many options up front. Like he kind of reminds me of Ten Hag in the sense where he's a manager this year that'll have zero excuses.
Well, 100%,
like,
absolutely.
Zero excuses.
There's some players in that team I would like to.
100%, man. Like I think
Madueke being one of them that we actually gave up. He
looks good, man. Their defense is definitely still questionable. They're figuring out, but I do think they're going to have a much better season. But you're right; he's got to figure out who his best front three is.
I think there's a bit of confusion as to who they are and who he wants them to be. But that's going to be the case. Like you sort of expect that. I think that he has the potential with the squad he has to be in a good position to finish 5th, 6th, 7th, kind of in that
somewhere
position.
in and around there. Like
there'll be games like today where they won't get over the line and they'll drop some points. But
they need to build out from the back. But it's another good result. I think it's not as doom and gloom there anymore. Like you remember, like we got to really remember at some points last year they were horrendous, man.
Awful, yeah,
dude. Like same with United.
But that first half today, like. It was defensively.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. It was amongst one of the worst performances I've seen. Like it was like
all the money they spent on forwards. You think they buy a fucking center back? Like
somebody who can like play the ball out from the back. Like,
I'm telling you,
anybody.
Man,
like it was disastrous.
They got the win. The subs did the work. They made them look good because otherwise, you're right. Like they weren't great. It was that last 15, 20 minutes where they really pushed.
Yeah,
and Kunku, taking goal.
It was the substitutions changed the game. I mean, it's the obvious thing. It was Sancho did have a good game. I had a weird thing with when I was watching it, and then anyway,
the internet.
I mean, weird internet thing. I made fun of you about it and then realized that did it myself. So it's like 15 minutes I missed, and you guys were all like, "Oh, Sancho's playing so good." And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? He's been on." In my head, he's been on for 5 minutes. I hadn't seen anything, but you guys had watched 20 minutes, and you're like, and then I watched some of that, and I was like, "Oh, that's what they meant."
It was tough to watch, man.
He actually looked quite good. Yeah,
best I've ever seen him play. I'm like, I'd never ever seen a sniff of that once, and maybe that's a knock on our coach and the setup and everything at United because he looks
playing
like
him in position, and it's also going to be his first opportunity back in the Prem, and he's going to perform, right? You're going to see,
he's great.
You're going to see him step up and be like, "Look, I'm
still here. Keep it up, right?"
And he was very good again back at Dortmund last season, like really good. So I think his confidence is there, and he's feeling a lot better.
Yep.
All right, let's get into Sunday. We're going to save the morning game, the 9:00 game for the end, but we'll start with the Newcastle Wolves. Newcastle 2, Wolves 1. I admit I was working today. Did you watch the game?
I watched the whole game.
Let me know what happened because I didn't see it. And
like really underwhelming Newcastle in the first half. And when you get a chance, you haven't seen the highlights. Watch the Wolves goal, the dummy that the guy Gomez makes. To get to the other player to tap it in, and I should have his name in front of me. Brian, it is unbelievable, man. The dummy that this guy makes, the pass is coming right through. He dummies it. It goes right across the 6-yard box for a tap, and it was unbelievable. So the Wolves were playing not bad, but it was more so one of those where Newcastle weren't at it. And then in the second half, in the last 15, 20 minutes, Harvey Barnes with a screamer. Like they came back and they got the 3 points, and I think they were worth it in the end. But I'm not sure who Newcastle are. You know, we're talking about Chelsea.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think
their identity is they're struggling a little bit.
They're going this way instead of that way, which I'm surprised
at. You know, I talked about this on a previous show about some of the stuff happening in the back end. You know, the couple of
the ownership changes.
When those things happen, that you can tell that there's some other stuff happening. Maybe that is seeping into the structure of the club because they started so well with that group and everything seemed to be going really well. I just want to quickly, if this is Lee Gunner, because it's his picture. If you know Lee Gunner, fuck you, Lee Gunner, you prick. No, I mean he's a
still fan?
massive YouTuber, Arsenal fan. His channel does really well. If it is you, Lee, appreciate you being here for us little small channels. But yeah, if we're copying you, we didn't mean to, and we'll take the waffle. But
what does he mean we're copying him?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Bellin's copying my live. All absolute waffle. No idea, Lee. Why don't you tell us why?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Get in the comments and then come on the channel and we'll have a laugh.
See how you handle this. See you handle real football conversation for once.
Yeah. I know BX Gunner. He used his picture. I'm kind of having a laugh about it, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm aware that it's
but 2 wonder goals really from Newcastle is really what saved them in that game.
Yeah, it was, eh?
They weren't convincing, Brad. They weren't, and you know what? I'm not sure about them. I could see them in like 8th or 9th.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think the last season getting the Champions League, playing in the Champions League, and then things not necessarily going the way they wanted to behind the scenes. I think they're struggling with that situation a little bit, and it's getting into the team. And I think they need to still maintain sort of recycling, bringing new players in, keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting. And I think they're struggling with that a little bit, especially with the PSR stuff. I think every team is. I think teams, because of PSR, are having to rethink how they function. And Newcastle came in with the scenario where they were going to be able to spend a bunch of money based on the investment, and then weren't able to spend any money based on the investment.
That's what it looks
because of PSR. So I think that's affected their progression, and they're arguably. I'm sure the fans are pretty annoyed by that, but I'm glad that that's the case because that's what we want. We don't want those teams to do what Man City and Chelsea.
You don't want a City 2.0.
Yeah, we don't. The point is to get rid of that, right? And I just, from my perspective, I don't want it. I want that to be something that's in the past, but.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I wish I saw that. I will catch the highlights. Let's get into it. North London derby time, 9 a.m. Tottenham 0, Arsenal 1. This was I watched the first half, fully watched the first half at home, and then I had to go to work, so I had it on and I was listening to it, and I would check it every now and again. I kind of got a sense of what went down. My initial reaction, I'm just going to go, and then David, you can respond to it and tell me what you think. But
I'm curious what you think. Yeah.
I'm incredibly disappointed with our inability to score goals. Now, I know that we're going up against an Arsenal team that has the best defense in the league. Let's be honest.
Yes.
It is the best defense in the league. They're incredibly good, both going forward and backward. I hate, obviously, I'm not a fan of big enough teams I hate, but they deserve it.
Their defense,
so they're essentially sitting deep, and this is how you beat Tottenham at the moment. And if other teams don't do it, then they're idiots, because it's literally sit deep enough to make, and then make sure you have something on the counter. You got somebody who can push the ball through. I know that that's not how they won today, but they're sitting deep was why we didn't win. Because they were able to just stifle everything that we tried to put at them. It's back and forth, it's sideways, it's down the lines, but nobody putting good crosses in. The crosses that came in were shit.
Really bad. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I'm struggling with where goals are going to come from against big teams. If you go back, and I don't like going back to the last season because I feel like there's a refreshment in the new season. But if you go back to last season and you look at our record against teams in the top 10, I think it is, but maybe even closer to the top 6. We've gotten slaughtered, and these are smart teams with good coaches who are looking at Ange's tactics and going, "This is how you beat Spurs," and everybody knows how to do it.
Typically, yes.
Ange's tactics are, we'll score more goals than you, but when the team's tactics are, we're not going to let you score any goals, and they work, I'm getting a little nervous. I'm not I'm by any means thinking Ange out at all. I just think he has to.
We'll talk about Ange as well.
Different about what he's doing and why.
So
it's not working.
I think your comments are valid. I don't think they're all very much so applicable today, because I agree.
Well, tell me what you think. But again, I think an outside of sort of thought from my kind of like angst.
So all of that is true. I just don't think it was necessary. Like, Arsenal did defend incredibly well, but then on the flip side of that, like, some of those crosses and attacking, it almost looked like because I actually thought, like, before we get like deep into that, I thought outside of that, and we'll talk about the goal, outside of that, I thought the game was very, very even.
Possession, and back and forth.
Like, even to the point where one set piece, and I'll get into the goal and then let's get back to the game.
Man. We've been destroyed on set pieces.
Fed up of this zonal non-man marking in the box. And there's a little push there on Romero. Sure, is it going to be enough to get a goal? No, but Romero should be right behind him, body like these free headers in the Premier League in the box. Like, that wasn't good enough. Like, he cannot. I know he pushes off. Maybe he could have argued for a foul, but you got to be on him and everyone else. So that was, if I'm a Spurs fan, like, I'll put myself in the position of being a Spurs. That was really disappointing, because outside of that, you couldn't pick who was a better team today outside of the fact
that's been
that
all 4 of our games, Dave. That's been all 4 of our games,
but
even
here's the thing.
other than the Everton result, which is, it's obviously an outlier, but
Yeah.
all of the other games, it was all these chances created.
Yeah.
And you look like you're going to score, and none of them are clinical.
You're playing against the team that you can barely score on, though. You're playing against the hardest team to score.
I know, and that's the hardest
problem
part.
I had is the efforts and the attempts to create offense when they got to the final third in the box were mega poor.
Awful.
Like some of those.
That's the point. The point I'm making.
Yeah, no, and I agree.
You're not good enough at finishing in the final third, and you create all these chances, but none of them are a real clear cut. You're screwing yourself. Like, you're putting yourself in a position. That's what we've done all season so far. Like, if you look at the amount of
the goals as well.
shots, we have the most shots on goal in the league at the moment of any other team. The most time spent in the opposition box of any other team. None of that's coming to fruition to goals except against a poor Everton side.
You guys do such a great job of transitioning the ball to your offensive players like Kulusevski's son. And I've actually thought when I was watching the game, you guys penetrated more in from the wings than Arsenal did. Arsenal played their game a little bit slower. I thought you guys defended well.
They're more built up.
I thought you defended very well outside of the one set piece, the one corner. But when you get into the box, and I know you're playing against the best defensive team in the league, and they really are. And again, don't be too harsh on yourself. Like City could barely score on them last year, but it wasn't even.
We scored 4 on them last season in 2 games.
The attempts today were poor. Like, that might be some of the worst crossing I've ever seen. And you know what? Cross into a place where there's not even one of your own fucking players within 10 yards. It's like, are you just running out of ideas? So if I'm a Spurs fan, and this is my question back to you.
Yeah.
Like, is this an Ange issue or is this a player issue where everything, you would kill for your team to get the ball, get it to your attacking players, and get to that 18-yard box? Spurs don't have a problem doing that right now. They're actually fantastic at it. But when you get there, you got it. That's what you get paid the big bucks as an offensive player. You got to get creative.
Somebody's got to put the ball in there.
You got to make runs. You got to create shots. And we see City do it. We see Liverpool. We see the best teams in the world do it. For me, they were very poor in the final third.
There was a chance
in more detail.
Solanke had a chance in the first half, and I'm sure you saw
took an extra touch
at the top of the box. It comes to him because of deflection off a defender.
I know the one.
It was insane. Like, he took 3 touches. I'm like, if that's at Kane's or Haaland's feet, that ball's in the back of the net in a second, because you have to be that quick.
We're talking about Solanke here, and that's a whole other conversation.
He was doing that last season, in a poor side.
That's a top
19 goals last season. I mean, he needs to be better.
And puts Haaland or Kane take a touch and put that in the net. That was a big chance. I thought the Kulusevski one at the very end, just not far off. But outside of that, I thought Spurs were really pushing for the last 10, 15 minutes. But the attempts at that 18-yard box, some of the attempts looked like, what the fuck are you guys
it just felt like they were trying to do a tactic that they didn't quite understand or couldn't do the tactic against the defense that they were playing in. And that says to me that Arteta's got the number of what you're trying to do, you're not going to be able to try to do, because this is how I'm going to defend against it. And I feel like, as much as I love Ange, and I do, and I think the potential's there, he needs to adjust in that situation, tactically speaking. He needs to change just slightly where the routes are coming from. Because if you do the same thing over and over again, the teams, every team who is smart enough defensively and are well organized, they're going to stop you from doing it. They sit deep enough, they just go back and forth, they close the line, in between the lines go away. You have nowhere to push the ball, and you end up being very wasteful. That's exactly what we saw. That's what we've seen 3 times in 3 games, other than the one. That's exactly what we've seen. I'm not saying it can't work against lower teams, but teams that are really good with a good defense and are organized, going to be really hard. And Ange has to sort that out. That is yes, play Ange ball if you want all day long. But when there's something that's different, and of course we did start with 2 10s, which I thought was, the Kulusevski and Maddison but Maddison was dropping deep, way too deep. I felt like
he was off of it a little bit today. I don't know what your take was off him. Okay, let me ask you a question, because again, I was thinking about you guys, and like they got to the edge of the box. Well, I didn't see a lot of overlapping from the fullbacks, and that was probably a defensive tactic to say,
It
hey,
is, yeah, that is something he's
can't
doing
expose
less.
ourselves too much to an Arsenal team that could hit us on the counter with faster players. I just think you're right. And again, it's the same thing at United, and like you could argue same thing at Chelsea, and we'll see how the season goes. But they get into that area. To be very specific, the final ball was nowhere to be found today. Nowhere. And again, you have Solanke in there, and I didn't see. In a sense, Brian, what I was thinking, and I want to get your take on this. I wanted them to be a little bit more brave and ballsy offensively. They looked tentative even when they got to the box. Like they didn't have ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what Ange wants as well. I think the idea of Ange Ball is to be that ballsy, but the issues being so far, and since Ange has been at Tottenham, is that when we do that, we end up sacrificing something in the back. So if you do that, you have to score. You have to go 2-0 up in every game to play at that level and to be able to, because what happens when you do that, you score first, you score 1 or 2 goals to start the game. The other team has to come out. They can't sit deep anymore because they're the ones battling back. And then you can get in behind and you've got a counterattack. And Spurs counterattack in that scenario when they're up 1 or 2 goals is deadly. So we're just not doing that against the bigger teams who are smarter, better coached with a better defense. And again, that's my problem. I need we need Ange to kind of go, okay, I get what's going on here. It's just it's a slight tweak, but it's a tweak that should change things a little bit.
To kind of like on your same point, like the follow-up question that I don't think is, and it should be asked in this moment. Personnel not an issue. You're happy with what you have?
No, it is an issue. It is. So I think he needs to start using some of the younger players and making it like freshen up the way we play. Playing the exact same players as last season, pretty much. Like our 11 is our 11. There's a slight variation now because we have a bit more on the bench. So you get a Bentancur playing the 6 instead of a Basuma or whatever. Like there's slight variations in those positions.
Options.
But going forward, it's the same. The defense is the same. There's this very similar. Everybody knows everybody. So patterns of play are obvious and easy to follow. But you throw on Lucas Bergvall all of a sudden, a player who is a little bit different in the pocket, he's a bit more control on the ball, and he's got a bit more vision for something in between the lines. Change that up a little earlier. Start one of them to start a game. Bring on the other player. Like you're giving teams, I think, an obvious tactical response to what you're going to do. Because it's so repetitive and so easy to see and easy to read.
Would you have changed his starting lineup, or did you like his starting lineup?
I thought the starting lineup, as far as the system, was right. I thought having 2 10s, having Kulusevski and Madison, but I don't think that is actually what happened. Madison dropped way deeper than I wanted him to.
Kulusevski goes out to the right.
Well, no, he stayed in the middle most of the game. He like right side of middle. He was playing as the right sided 10. So it was the three in the middle were Bentancur at the base, and then you had Madison on the left and Kulusevski on the right. But they're playing inside. He's playing as an 8, so it's not.
I would have wanted overlaps today if I were you. It's the one thing I didn't see, and I would have.
We're not doing we do underlaps, right? But currently, Udogie is not having this best start to the season. He looks a little bit off it, and I think we're struggling a little bit on that left side. His interaction with Sonny isn't quite fully there, and some of the build-up play that we did last season when we first started was really intricate, kind of simple, cool, fun passing, and you saw this just get through a defense quickly. We're not seeing that. It feels a little bit weighted and kind of like overthinking, and we're not, but that's what teams have realized. If you sit deep enough and you kind of like have your structure of your 4, sometimes 5, with a brick there or a bus there, as they say, parking the bus. If you just do that and you're organized, you're going to get a counterattack against Spurs, and you're probably going to get a goal. We saw it with Newcastle. We saw it with Leicester. Didn't happen today, arguably because Arsenal's midfield wasn't as good as it normally would be.
No sniffs in the box. Yeah, Kulusevski, I think, was about 20 yards out. The first half.
We're not the quality of the ball to that 6-yard top of that 6-yard box with Solanke supposed to get on the end of non-existent today, and the point of having him there was that was what we missed, and it's incredibly disappointing. 4 times in a row,
out coached a little bit today tactically, because I got to be honest, I don't think Arsenal were that good today. If I'm being honest,
I don't think they were either, but they only did what they had to.
Players,
they did what they had to, and their defense won them the game. They got the goal, and they defended against us, and
100%
gave us no opportunity. And like you said, it is the best defense in the league, but you have to it's shameful that goal, how that was scored,
decided it.
Like it's just like he's just wide open right
Gabriel.
in the middle of the Gabriel. What are you doing? Like who's defending that guy?
I'm sick of seeing that in the Premier League with top teams. Like we get scored on all the time by just not marking players, and it's like this should be like an automatic, like
you're seeing the guy in the middle of 4 players or like a diamond around him, and he's in the middle of them by himself, and he just comes in and goes boom. And he's a big fella. You got to at least physically body him and make it uncomfortable for him so he can't get his head on it. It was a free header. It was a free header in the box with a dead ball. And this is something Spurs have, like the end of last season and this season, were like brutal on set pieces. Brutal. It's improved this season, but that's another one like that. Come on, guys, set pieces. Do we have a coach? Is there somebody saying to you like this is how you defend a corner? Like
what is your crew saying? Like, and even what you're seeing with Arsenal fans, do you think Arsenal fans know they like pipped it today and they got lucky? Like, because they were not by no means, I would say, like the better team.
I think they probably are happy with what happened and expected to some extent. I think that like some of the stuff I saw, like all you have to do against Spurs is defend really well and then wait for them to fuck it up. Which is, it's
a set piece though, man.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, dude. Our set pieces since the end of the last season and the beginning of the season, I forget the number, but it's absurd at most of the goals. When they beat us at our ground last year 3-2, we came back and sort of got ourselves back into it. 2 of the goals were set pieces and the other one was an own goal. Like I mean that's what we're doing in those difficult situations where it doesn't feel like there's what you see from Arsenal's defense is a sturdy kind of strong. Here's how we're going to manage this game.
So structured.
It's really difficult to get through. And then going forward on a free kick, you've got these massive dudes who just get in the box and bodying people and making it uncomfortable.
I know.
And
nobody wants to admit it. They're a good football team. Man.
They're a very good football team. We have 2 very good center halves. I love Romero and I love Van de Ven. I just think that there's a little bit more organization that isn't happening in
that's going to be coaching though, Brian. Like
it's coaching, but it's also players on the pitch. Like, come on,
maybe.
How do you like the coach is saying zone mark?
They look zonal.
If the coach is telling you zone mark, just ignore him. That fucker right there is going to come in, run in here, and score. The zone is this zone I'm going to mark. He's not getting in here. He's not getting his head on the ball. And that's.
Do you think the push should have been looked at a little bit or no?
No, I don't think so.
It wasn't enough. Was it?
It's soft. I mean, it's a good goal. It's a good goal. It's shit defending, but it's a good goal. And again, Spurs have been burnt on that too many times. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here. I know I'm not being dramatic. I just think. It's a terrible
performance, though, Brian.
It's the worst start to. It's the worst 4 games. The worst start to the league we've had in a long, long time, and that doesn't bode well. And I'm not saying I want Ange to go, but when the fan base starts to turn,
it's a little early though for that though.
I agree. But that's not what's happening.
I did see some Ange Spurs stats.
No, I've seen many Ange out fucking posts.
Yeah,
even some of the people in my wheelhouse. Love you guys at TOT, but like I'm seeing people like I don't know about this guy, and I'm just like I mean, come on, guys. It's if we're looking at why Arsenal are where they are, it's their 5th season under Arteta.
I like Ange.
The first 2, it was 8th, 5th. Was it 8th, 5th, 5th? That second, and now they're in their 5th.
We were on this show and we couldn't comprehend that Arteta was lasting another day in the job at one point when they were so bad. So we got to talk about Ange. I'm sure you probably saw the post-match interview that kind of went a little bit viral.
I did.
The reporter says to him, is there a chance at silverware this season? He goes, I don't usually win silverware in my first season, but I always win silverware in my second season. She goes, do you mean that? She goes, I wouldn't have said it if I didn't mean it. He always
does. Though.
I know, but
it's really dumb.
What I'm asking is, what do you think of that comment from him?
I think it's poor timing, and I think it's him being reactive and emotional, and not fully understanding the fan base and where we're at with this. Because again, that's the 4th time at home in a row for the first time in our history that we've lost to our rivals Arsenal at our stadium. And that happening and then him coming out and saying that, it just doesn't feel like that's the case that we're going to win something when you've like had the start we've had. Now, if he comes back and and all of a sudden we go on a run and we go into a cup run and we end up winning a trophy and I'm going to be so pleased about that. But when he does this in this situation, I just think it's really misguided. I love the guy. I think this is the first time I've doubted his kind of a mental
with the
ability to sort of like understand and motivate both his players and the fan base, so that they're kind of we're all on the same page. I feel like we're
Mhm.
missing that a little bit. When he first came in, it was like we're all on the same page, we're all going the same direction. And now he's saying shit like that, and I'm kind of like, dude, like you didn't have to say that. Like you like it's a rub in the wound that hurts right now. We just got beat by our rival at home for the first time in history that's happened, and you're saying we're gonna win a trophy.
Tripling down.
Better if we don't win a trophy. I mean, the Ange outcome for me comes out much quicker.
Like how many, like if you guys don't win a trophy this year and things go bad, like that comment is going to be memed up so hard by Arsenal fans.
And it's so Spursy if that happens.
I know.
And that's the thing. It's just like, fuck off. The point of this appointment and the point of us changing the way we play and this way we think as a club is not being sort of a mid-table team and end up in the top 6 because we're well run and we haven't won anything, but we're still in there, and we've got to a Champions League final, but we lost, and we got to a FA Cup final loss, and we got to a League Cup final loss. There's a reason we're called Spursy. The point of this project is to remove that. And so if he's that confident that we're going to win something, he fucking better win something.
I know. After making a comment like that,
the worst thing he's ever said.
It is one of those games, though, where I think everyone's blowing it up. I've seen Arsenal fans going bananas online, and it's like, listen, relax. I've seen a lot of Spurs fans losing their mind with Ange, and it's like, if you think about it, you have a team that's been playing really, really well the last couple. They usually find a way to win in these games, and like you said, Ange's 1 season and 4 games. Like these things do need time. You need to build up the culture. If I'm a Spurs,
it's a bigger challenge at Tottenham than I think it is at other places as well.
It's gotten better at Spurs. Like I think it's a good team.
It's a great team, and there's great youth players there. There's young players there, but this is the thing we were asking for all summer was to bring in a couple of players, season winners, players that have won at the highest level that go directly into our squad. Like that's the thing you need to up your level a little bit. And like if you think about what Arsenal did, I hate bringing them up again. Well, there's been a few. There's a few players that came in. The way they built their squad, I think was incredibly smart.
Great recruitment.
Yeah, obviously using Man City the best. The relationship that was there. That helped them, and some of their loans were really good. And players coming back the way they did. They've managed something really, really well, and similar to what Liverpool did a few years back when they kind of had that period where the right player came in, the coach was there, and boom, and they started competing with City at that level. I think Arsenal kind of have done the same type of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Spurs need to do something like that. Yes, I agree. It's not going to happen in 2 seasons.
No,
I'm not going to be Ange out. Unless he says and does really dumb shit and starts to make me really annoyed.
You were very optimistic at the beginning of the season. I guess
I'm still optimistic. I am, but I'm
still optimistic.
Having the worst start to the season the Spurs have had in whatever it is 50, 60 years.
Yeah,
it makes me worried. Right. Having said that, performance wise, I don't think the score lines of those
doesn't
games
merit it.
Reflect that, but. The thing that reflected it today, and of course I recognize that yes, they're the best defense in the league or one of them, that we can't score. We're struggling to score. And this Ange's football is supposed to be swashbuckling, chance. And every team he's been at, he's had a striker on the end of the balls. And I arguably could say we're not there yet. It might take till the middle of this season before everything starts to click. Because it's a process. We had to go from having and this, like having a bunch of bench warmers who just weren't going to get into the side, making a ton of money. We got rid of, 10, 15 players this season, whether they were through the academy or whether they were, riding the pine. That was a massive, massive thing to have to do. Yeah. And we brought in a bunch of young players. They also have to bed in. So I do think this is a transition season. It's another reason why I think Ange maybe should chill the fuck out.
I know.
We're gonna win some trophies. I'm like, dude, I get it. I love. He's a winner, and he's always done it. So I love that. But it's like in a moment like today when he says it, I'm a bit like, I don't know if that was kind of got it. Kind of doesn't quite get the fan base.
And he doubled and tripled down. He goes, I wouldn't have said it unless I meant it. And I was like, Ange, man, holy.
Yeah. What do you think of Premier League? Is that what's your position?
I like him, and I think Spurs are heading in the right direction. Like you said, I think they've done a lot of really good things. And if you look at some of their signings over the last couple of years, like look at Romero, man. Romero's one.
I love Romero.
I believe he was brilliant
again. Being partially
in
the goal today, but
no, well, I've said other than the goal, he was like Van de Ven, like some
They're
really
dynamite. They're dynamite.
like the squad is Madison,
The
Basuma.
thing that's letting us down right now, David,
It's not that bad, man. Like
no. But
talking about
the thing that's
Arsenal.
letting us down, and this is the thing that has to be remembered. And again, we just sort of spoke about this. We're not scoring goals against difficult teams to play against.
It's the
Teams
hardest
that win
thing in the
leagues,
league to
teams
do.
that win trophies, score against better teams because they find a way to get in.
But you would argue that you guys aren't
that.
quite there yet. You've made the step from like here to here. That step that you're talking about is here to here, and
it's next season, arguably. I just hope he's given. I hope he's given the patience, and I don't think he
next
will
season
be.
Should be if he's given funding and he's backed, should be like it has to be a top 4 type season. But again,
I think there's
a lot of competition.
Yeah, it's gotten even more difficult with PSR as well. Everybody's kind of been, which is sort of like what a salary cap does, right? You kind of, because you can't overspend, you end up having to find the best players in your system. And coaching becomes more important. I think that's what we're seeing with the Premier League. I think because of PSR, it's not the same as a salary cap, but it's operating in a very similar way, because you can't just go 100 million on this guy, 150 on that guy. You literally have to be like, okay, we have to manage this club a certain way. So it's squad building and systems and good coaching. Those have become way more important. And I think Ange fits that. And so I think he'll succeed in it, but I don't know whether he'll be given the time. I worry very much about the poison that our fan base will, not me, and it's not everybody, but there's a large enough amount of people who will shit like just complete. I've already seen it. I'm seeing it with people that are friends. I'm seeing with people that I do channel some of the stuff with it. They're like, the meltdown is on.
I'm seeing some United stuff where how we've got the whole Ten Hag some people are in, some people are out. A lot of stuff on Twitter today be like, everyone attacks Ten Hag, and then like, has anyone looked at Ange's record like in the last however many games? And I was like, oh, I didn't really think about that. So
Ange's record's terrible. Like, it's brutal.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, maybe it's because he's like a media darling. I like him. I do think he's a good coach. I think it's early on, as I say, like everyone got to chill, but you're right. It's hard because you look at points and you look at the table, and it doesn't lie, right? It is what it is, right?
It's table. It's over a long period of time. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I think like his style is really cool and it's fun to play. It's just I've been so annoyed when people call him naive, but I do feel like there is a bit of naivety there. I do think he's good enough and smart enough to manage that eventually. It's whether or not he'll be given the time. Like it's whether he gets either by the club or by the fans. When things get poisoned at Spurs, the fans' reaction does have an effect. Levy does make decisions based on that. We've seen it on a number of occasions, and it's like, fuck. And I hope, because we saw it with Poch, we saw it with Klopp, we've seen it with Pep, we've seen every coach that's obviously now Arteta. Every coach that's given the right amount of time, and given the tools when they ask for them. I want this, I need this, and get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. They succeed really well, and I think he is a good enough coach for that to happen. I hope the club backs him appropriately, and I hope the fans stick with him. That remains to be seen.
I think he'll get you guys on the right track. So who do you have next? Because I think you play somebody else, and then I think it's us.
And then United. Well, we have a Wednesday game. Wednesday.
Yeah, we've got a game tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday League Cup. Yeah, and then we've got a Wednesday League Cup against Coventry.
Yeah,
and then we've got Brentford before you guys.
What, man?
Brentford at home. I mean, that's a game we should arguably win, but
that's going to be a tough game.
Tough game. They're a good side. So
they are Brian. They are a good side, man.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I think because of what we was talking about before, despite City, who I think are still riding on their cheating that they've done, that I really think that they've ridden on it. The teams like a Newcastle, like Spurs, like United, who are kind of like now having to deal with this, PSR situation. The league is changing completely. I think when Pep leaves, and Man City then have to actually spend well without spending crazy.
That hearing starts tomorrow, by the way.
I know, and they may end up friggin' being relegated this season, which would be amazing.
I like Ange, and I'm also like a big believer in player accountability. I think the attacking players for Spurs, it's so hard to say, because as much as I say they need to be accountable.
Yeah,
I watched every minute of the game, and I have to tell you, from a defensive standpoint, Arsenal were a 10 out of 10, man. Like they often are.
I know. I watched the first half.
Difficult to break down, and I think we talked about it a little bit. Yeah. And this is that guile, and this is that, like, how far do you want to push it? I think for teams that want to get a result against Arsenal, you got to be bold and you got to say we're going to have to take risks.
You got to risk
what's it going to be worth on the back end? Maybe get.
But I think Spurs attempted to risk it. I think the reason they didn't is that Arsenal were so organized and they understood. Tight. They understood what there was coming at them and how to respond to it. There was no lanes between the lines. There was very little like good crossing ability because that was covered. Their defense was super organized about what we were going to try to do. They made us look really bad because of how good they were, and that's the sign of a defense that's really well organized. So, challenging.
You know what? It's a tough game. It's a tough game. Here's what I will say: that I still saw a lot of good things. You're playing against the toughest defense. It's a tough loss because it's a North London derby. I think it's a tough loss, and it's like
it's just been such a crap beginning of the season.
It's where you go from here? Yeah. Would you say? I don't want to. I'm sick of the dramatics with everybody in the way football.
It's too soon. I've said, and I'll stand by this.
Brentford a must win? Is Brentford?
I don't think anything's a must win until you're into end of November, like going into December, and like because that's when we're about to go into busy season, where it gets just bonkers. Where are you at? What's the form? Like, have we built up any momentum? Like you're going to go through different periods of time. Beginning of the season, new players come in, trying to get organized, trying to play the way you want to play. If Ange gets it right, which I think he will, and the players start to really feel the structure and they start responding by getting in the right positions and scoring instead of just, oh God, I don't know where to put this ball and then pass it sideways or backwards. And that starts to happen and they start to get brave, like you said, then I think there's potential there. If we don't see that, then that's when I get worried. And I'm not Ange out. I say stick with him for a whole season.
Yeah.
See where we end up by the end of the season. Cause I think that's appropriate.
Sensible.
But I'm still, it's sensible, but I'm still concerned for the fan base and for him and sort of what he's going to end up having to go
also
through.
Sensible. Like you see where they're at, but you want to see a little bit more. You want to see some goals. Let's see, man. I mean, I'm very interested to see where they go from here. Obviously, I'm very curious because we play them in a couple of weeks. So I'm obviously going to have some close eyes on that Brentford game.
Maybe you and I can do a little preview. Maybe you and I can do a little preview for that. We'll talk about that.
What do you mean? We will 100% will.
Yeah,
I love the idea.
Tune in if you're watching, guys. And you've gotten this far. Like and subscribe. We really appreciate people being here. We kind of chucked this together in the last minute. We wanted to do it. Trying to organize is always difficult with our crew, but David and I, we haven't had a good chat like this. I really enjoyed this, David.
It was great, man.
Chat with you as always, and
it was awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and more of this, and hopefully you'll tune in next time. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been the North End Sunday Roast. David, it's been a pleasure, brother. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Take care, everyone.
This is the North End.